Okay, how about now we add random explosions? In JW's demo game that he made, he said, I figured I could use a 33% chance when the enemies die so that they explode, and that stuff feels good, even if it makes no sense. So we'll get a third of the zombies blowing themselves up. So we've got our explosion and smoke here. They don't have any scripts on them. We won't go and build the scripts for them. We can just find our existing explosion and smoke script. So we've got explosion there, that goes on the big white ball, and then the little brown one there will be smoke. So find that smoke script from in here. Smoke, there it is. And if we look at the explosion script, it's tagged as explosion, and the smoke script is tagged as smoke. So that's what we need to know. Okay, explosion and smoke. Now we need to go and edit our zombie. And the zombie is going to tell the player that an explosion needs to happen. And that'll happen when the zombie dies. So let's go find the zombie die function, which is down here, die. And when we play that sound effect, what we'll do is we will roll a dice. We'll generate a random number, and then we'll check, is that random number, so we'll make a random number from 1 to 3, and if it is greater than 2, so if it's 3, that's a 33% chance, then we'll spawn the explosion. So we need an if block from control flow, and then from operators we need a equals or greater than block, greater than, a random number from operators, random integer from 1 to 3, and if the random integer from 1 to 3 is greater than 2, that means it must have been 3. Let's send the explosion message to the player. So from events, we want send message to object with myself. The message will be explosion. The instance will be player, so change that to player. And then myself is the information that will be sent along, so it will know where the zombie is. Okay, good. Let's close that and save that. Now the player needs to receive that message, so we'll go all the way down the bottom, and we will go to events and grab when I receive message with a value. Drag that out here. The message was explosion. Make sure you spell that right. When I receive explosion with a value, what do we want to do? We want to, well, first of all, we need to spawn an explosion object. Now, how are we going to do that? Well, we need to go back up to the top here. When the level starts, we need to keep track of an explosion. So we'll go to variables, and we'll create a variable. It'll be a class type, and it'll be named explosion. Okay, let's find that class explosion. We'll set that up here, and then we'll do the same for the smoke as well. Set class explosion. Let's make a new variable for that one, smoke. Okay, so explosion and smoke, and they are going to be the class of the first instance by tag and then the name of that tag. So we'll go to sensing and we'll grab under class, we want class of myself, but we'll get rid of the myself. And then again from sensing under tagging, we want first instance by tag, and the tag is explosion for the explosion, and then the tag is smoke for the smoke. Okay, then back down to when we are told to spawn an explosion by the zombie. What we'll do is we'll spawn an explosion. we should make a little function actually for spawning an explosion. So we'll go to functions, grab do something, call this spawn explosion, and this function will get run. Let's say when we're told to explode, we'll spawn a random number between 3 or 5 of those explosions. So it might just be 3, it might be 5. If we go to control flow, we'll grab a repeat block. Repeat 10 times. Instead of 10, it's going to be a random number from operators. Random integer from 3 to 5. And in there, we will do our spawn explosion function. Spawn explosion. And when we receive that explosion message, the zombie is saying, hey, it's me, and sending that information with itself. We want our spawn explosion to be able to create a new explosion and then put it where the zombie was. So we need this information, this value, to go into this function. The way that we can send that information in there, down to here, is by making a parameter, which is like a local variable. So we'll click on this little cog icon there for the function. We'll give it an input or a parameter, and the input name here will be object to spawn on. Object to spawn on. Okay, now we can see when we call the function, it's got that little gap there. We can right click on value there, create value, and then pop that in there. So the information will get sent through down to here. And it will appear, if we right click on here, we can create get object to spawn on, and this is the variable that we're going to use. Okay, so when we spawn an explosion, we need to create a new instance of that explosion. If we go to draw, we've got this block here, create new instance of a class. Drag that out. This will create our new clone, and the class is explosion, which is right there. So we're creating a new explosion. Now we want to position it. So we'll go to transform and we'll grab set center X position. And we don't want to position myself. We want to position this new instance. So you can right click on instance there and create get instance. That'll give you the new explosion that we made. And we're positioning it. We don't want to position it to 0. We want to position it to the object, which was that zombie that got sent its information through here, down into here, and it pops out in here. So the zombie has a position. We'll go to transform and we'll grab center X position of myself. But we'll throw away that and we'll use object to spawn on. So the explosion instance is going to set its X position, center X position, to the center X position of that object, the zombie. So the explosion will get positioned there. Same thing for the Y position. Set center Y position to center Y position of that object, the zombie. Okay, now when we do this 3 to 5 times, they're all going to be stacked up on top of each other. We can play it now to see what that looks like, and then what we might do is randomize some of these positions so the explosions look a bit more natural. So let's go and test this out now. The player is told to spawn the explosions by the zombie, so when we kill the zombie, it should spawn some explosions. There we go. Just need some more zombies. They can see when they exploded, the explosions didn't really spread out at all. So because we're spawning 3 to 5 of them, it'd be nice if they kind of randomized their positions a bit. So we'll go back down, all the way down to here. Instead of just setting their position to the center of that object, we'll add some randomness to it. So we'll go to operators and grab an add block. And then we'll get that random integer block. let's say plus from -80 to 80. And then we'll duplicate this, so that'll be for the Y position, and that'll be for the X position. So it goes to the position of the zombie plus a random amount. Now let's test that. And that looked a lot cooler. Nice. Now those explosions can also spawn some smoke, because we're keeping track of that smoke object as well. So down here, when we make an explosion, we could also make some smoke. Okay, so each time we spawn an explosion, we'll also spawn a bunch of smoke. So we'll right click on this repeat block, duplicate it, put it underneath spawn explosion, and this will create our smoke. Now let's get spawn explosion out of there. We're going to duplicate our spawn explosion function, and instead of spawn explosion 2, we'll call this spawn smoke. And then we'll go to functions, grab spawn smoke, put it inside that second repeat block, and we still want to send that value into there so the smoke knows where to appear. Okay, now spawning smoke should create a new instance of smoke, not explosion. So we'll change that to smoke. And then the smoke could probably use the same positioning as the explosion as well. But I'm thinking we might want to delay when the smoke appears. So we might add a little time delay. If we go to control flow and grab after 100 milliseconds, and let's randomize this delay. So we grab one of our random integer blocks. Now we can't say after negative milliseconds have passed. We can't go back into the past. That's impossible. So we'll say after 200 to 400 milliseconds have passed, we'll spawn some smoke. And maybe we could randomize the timing of the explosions a little bit as well, so they don't all go boom at the same time. They could go boom, boom, boom. That might be a bit more interesting. So we could again go to control flow, grab our after 100 milliseconds have passed block, use the random integer block to randomize this time a little. How about from 10 milliseconds to 250 milliseconds? We'll spawn explosions. So a little bit of randomness to the delays there. Spawning explosions, spawning smoke. This happens 3 to 5 times, and then inside that, it does another 3 to 5 repetitions. So at most, this could be 5 times 5. So we could, in theory, be getting 25 objects spawned. So let's see what that looks like. And that looks pretty cool. Nice. Very cool. Okay. Next we will do faster and more enemies. More faster enemies. Since we've beefed up the rest of the gameplay, it's a bit too easy to kill enemies now. Making them faster and making more of them will help keep our game full of action. So let's edit our zombie script. And we're going to increase the max velocity. And here we've got our zombies have a max velocity from 180 to 280. Maybe we could have some really slow ones, and maybe we could have some really fast ones. Let's try that. Might be a bit crazy. Let's see what happens. Some of them are really slow. some of them are speedy. Nice. Okay, now what else could we do with our zombies? Well, let's add more and more zombies. We'll go to our zombie spawner. Up here, zombie spawner, edit that, and this actually creates the zombies. What we could do is increase the amount of zombies in our waves that we made, or we could go and enable this again. Every milliseconds repeat, create some zombies. What if we did every 2000 milliseconds create 4 zombies? Let's see how that works. Oh, we could even randomize this a bit, couldn't we? Could use our random integer block. Now, don't make that many zombies. That would be crazy. Probably would crash your computer. And if you want to try something ridiculous like this, make sure you save your game first, because this many objects would definitely slow the game down to the point of maybe crashing your game. I'm going to say from 3 to 5 times. Look at all those zombies. Wow. Okay. Nice. What about an even higher rate of fire? JW, when he was making this demo game, said, oh, an even higher rate of fire because we have more enemies and we might as well? Because you can. So we'll go and edit our gun script. And we'll find our timing here. We're saying every 100 milliseconds, shoot. Well, how about we make it every 80? Every 80 milliseconds. Or how about we go crazy and try every 50? Let's see what that looks like. So that'll shoot 20 times a second, and we're shooting 3 bullets each time we do that. Wow. That is a powerful gun. Now that we've got a really powerful gun, the camera should be affected by that as well, by programming in some kickback. JW said, basically it moves the camera in the opposite direction that I'm shooting in. That stuff also feels good, and it's like a little cheat that you can use in your games. So we will go to our player script first. Where is that? In here, edit our player script, and we are receiving that recoil message that the gun was sending down here when I receive recoil. And we want this to shake the camera. Let's try increasing that number. How about 100? Let's try that. 100 over 0.4 seconds. See what that looks like. Whoa. Maybe that's a bit too much. I might decrease that to 70. But feel free to keep that really high if you want. Where was that? 70. Might try 70. And what we could also do is edit our zombie hurt function. So edit the script on the zombie, find that hurt function, get hurt, and when we're vertically shaking the camera, we can increase that just make this stuff stronger. You could play with the numbers, maybe 30 to 40 pixels. Now with this stuff, you can go a little too far, but it's kind of up to you to figure out when you've reached the point where you need to dial it back a bit. Alright. How about the camera kick? Let's go get that in now. So we'll edit our gun script. And then when we shoot, in here, we're sending that recoil message to the player. Let's send a kick message to the camera. So the camera kicks back as well. Duplicate that recoil message sender, and let's say send kick to instance camera. Okay, close that and save that. And then we'll go and edit our camera, which is here. And when we receive kick, we'll add a block for that from events. When I receive message kick, what do we want to do? Well, we want to know which way the player is facing first. Should I be kicking back or should I be kicking forward? So we'll go to control flow, grab an if, and change that to if, else if. And we want to know if the scale of the player is greater than 0. So from operators, grab an equals, change that to greater than. We need a 0. And then we need scale from transform. And we want this to be of the player. So that should be in variables, instance, player. The scale of the player is greater than 0. The player must be facing right. So we'll go to transform. And we'll set the position of the camera, myself. That'll go back a bit. So we'll say minus 15. So let's grab that plus block from operators, change it to a minus, and make that 15. We could even try 20. Let's try 25. And then we want to say X position of myself, minus 25. And then if we're facing left, we need to scale X of the player less than 0. We need to set the position of myself to plus 25. Okay. I had 15 before when I tried this out previously, but 25, we'll see how that looks. That is pretty intense. Wow, a lot of stuff going on. All right, very cool. Now, how about we go and make those explosions a little bit bigger? Explosions are cool, so let's make them even cooler. JW said he was asking for some advice. He said, I asked him, how do you make good arcade games? And he told me, make really big explosions. And I've been working by that lesson ever since. Little quote from JW there, from Vlambeer. So, we'll make the explosions bigger. We'll edit our explosion script there. And we want to be tweaking the scale here. Set X scale. Let's make this, instead of 60 to 120, let's make it from 200 to 300. Let's try that. Ooh, those are pretty big explosions. Okay, let's make even more of those explosions. If we go and edit our player script, down the bottom here, when we receive that explosion message, instead of doing 3 to 5 explosions, let's do 5 to 8 explosions. See how that works out. Well, that looks pretty cool. Okay. I've only got a few more features to add in now. How about reinforcing those explosions by adding some lingering smoke that slowly fades away? So we'll go and edit our smoke script here. And in here, the smoke is saying every 50 milliseconds, if it is too small, if its scale is equal to or less than 0, it'll destroy itself. But if it's not, it will shrink itself by 0.1. So what we can do is change this 0.1 number to something a lot smaller, like 0.02. Or maybe we could even try 0.01 and see how long that smoke lingers for. Let's play that. Interesting. That's kind of cool. I think maybe we could speed that up just a little. I might try 0.02. Yeah, I think that looks about right. Cool. Now, for our final step. Meaning. We can kill the enemies, but they can't kill us. Let's add some real conflict to the game by allowing the zombies to damage the player, giving the player a meaningful reason to shoot them. Being able to win and lose is essential to any good game, and telling the player what's going on helps guide them on their adventure. And JW said, "You were the monster all along." Okay, so what we'll do is we will edit our player, first of all, to allow them to collide with the zombies. And if we go down here and find this function, set up physics layers, this sets which objects can collide with which other objects. And we want to find, under our zombies here, collisions between 1 and 3 are currently false. The player is on physics layer 1, the zombies are on physics layer 3, so we want collisions between 1 and 3 to be true. So we'll change that to true. Okay, now the zombies can collide with us. We want them to hurt us. So let's go and have a look at our when I am touched, get toucher block. And in there we want to add something that will allow the zombies to hurt us. Right now they won't, so let's play the game and see what happens. So right now they just push us around a little bit. We can collide with them. Okay, let's make it so that the zombies can hurt us. So in the player script, we want to scroll down. I think it's about halfway down. Yes, we want when I'm touched, get toucher. I'm going to add blocks to this. So we want to know if the toucher had tag zombie. So we'll go to control flow and we'll grab another if block and put it in here. When I'm touched, get toucher. If, and then we can just duplicate this part. Toucher has tag deadly. Duplicate that. Let's get this to say if toucher has tag zombie. What do we want to do? Well, we want to check if you're able to be hurt. So we'll go to control flow, grab if. And then from variables, we want true, false, able to be hurt. And if you are able to be hurt, what are we going to do? We're going to check if you were touching on the left side or touching on the right side. Because if you jump on top of a zombie, you shouldn't get hurt by just touching it with your feet. So we'll only get the zombie to hurt you if it's touching on the left or right side. So we need another if block from control flow. Then we need an or block from operators. Starts out as and. Change that and to or. And then we need this to say touching on left or touching on right. From physics, under collisions, we want touching on any side. And we just change that to left or right side. And if we were touched by a zombie, then we will get hurt. From functions, we'll grab get hurt, which does all this stuff. Okay, now player should be able to get hurt, and then down the bottom here, a player has a die function. In our die function, we can bring up some text. Before we go and add that, let's just play the game, see what happens when we get hurt. And the player dies. And then the game restarts. So what we could do is display some text when the player dies. We've got down the bottom here in our die function, we're going to send a message out to the camera, because the camera can actually pop up text in our game. So we'll go to events and we'll grab from message sending, we want send message to object with myself. We'll do that when we die. The message will be cinematic, and then capital T text. Cinematic text, that's the message the camera will accept. And then it needs to be sent to the camera, not object. So change that to camera text. And we won't send myself, we will send some text. So we'll right click and duplicate cinematic text. And in here we can type in a little message. You were the monster all along. Because you killed all those zombies, and maybe they weren't bad zombies, maybe they were good zombies, but you went and shot them. You were the monster all along. Cool. Now if your game starts to lag a bit and slow down, you might want to dial down some of the effects. You might want to make it so you don't spawn as many bullets as often. You might want to make it so you don't spawn as many zombies. You might not want to spawn as much smoke and explosions. If you have a really good computer, you'll be able to spawn heaps of cool effects, but if it slows down a bit, those are some of the things you can do to make it faster. Okay, so that is going to wrap up our final step for Vlambeer, the Art of the Screenshake.